drug that we seldom use in our practice, but we might soon have to use when we are talking about near misses, the emergency, and requires immediate multidisciplinary management. Antihypertensives should be used to lower the blood pressure. Why do we use antihypertensives? To prevent maternal complications like intracerebral hemorrhage, stroke, and the other complications. That's why we use the antihypertensives. Low women is assessed to be at risk of eclampsia. Abrupt hypotension also can precipitate a seizure, so we should be very gradual in lowering the blood pressure. Remember, when we are using antihypertensives for control of hypertension, we need to combine it many a times with magnesium sulfate for seizure prophylaxis. So if the study which was conducted, which saw that regarding 100 pregnant women who attended the antenatal clinic in Chhattisgarh, they were asked whether they knew that there was some entity called PIH, or pregnancy induced hypertension, and whether they knew that women could have convulsions and die of pregnancy. It revealed that 14% of pregnant women had good knowledge, 55% had average knowledge, and 31% had poor knowledge regarding PIH. So even if we educate our women saying that they can check their own blood pressures, or nowadays on Amazon there are a lot of people who are getting blood pressures, and if they can even do home BP monitoring, it will be good to know that at least 14% of the women had good knowledge of PIH. So this is the definition of severe hypertension, like if diastolic is greater or equal to 110 millimeters of mercury for 2 readings, or systolic greater or equal to 170 millimeter of mercury for 2 readings, or if the hypertension is combined with eclampsia at lower levels of pressure than above, but when there are persistent symptoms or failed oral antihypertensive therapy, or in situations where prompt BP reduction is required, or in situations where oral administration of medication is impossible, unreliable, such as in labor or in the unconscious state, we have to consider giving other antihypertensives. So in this study, which is published in 2014, they saw that 34% of the people used only monotherapy in controlling PIH patients, whereas 67% of the patients used combination therapy. So they combined 2 drugs to control the PIH. So with the treatment of PIH, essentially most of us, those of us who have done our post-graduation in the 90s, we have very good experience with methyl dopa. Unfortunately, it's not available. So we are using labetalol, which is an alpha and beta blocker, nifedipine, and I'm going to talk to you today about hydralazine, which is a peripheral vasodilator. It is given in the doses orally between 500 to 300 milligrams in 2 to 4 divided doses, and intravenous formulation is also available to treat hypertensive emergencies. So hydralazine, dihydrolazine was actually in 15 Jan 1953 US FDA approved for birth, and India it was approved in 1954. It is approved for both oral and injectable use, but for some reason it was not available in between, and now it is actually available again. It was first launched in 1950s. It is a direct vasodilatory effect, and it has a rapid predictable onset of action, and a wide therapeutic window between 200 to 300 milligrams have been used. Short half-life, no effect on electrolytes, used for management of PIH, and positive effect on renal and cerebral blood flow. Very important in those patients whom you find that the urine output is little less, going on the lesser side. It is better to use hydralazine in these patients because it has positive effect and increases the blood flow to the kidneys and improves their urine output, and has been used IV as well as orally. So it is it's a drug, belongs to the vasodilator class of drugs used to treat high blood pressure, and also used in patients with heart failure, in patients that develop high blood pressure during pregnancy and birth. It works by relaxing the blood vessels, so blood can flow easily throughout the body. So this is the molecule. It is a thalazine derivative, and it is best known members of this series are hydralazine and dihydrolazine, which are easily available. So the mechanism of action is direct vasodilatation. It relaxes the blood supply and increases the supply of blood to the oxygen to the heart, and reducing its workload, thereby reduces the blood pressure. Vasodilatation by stimulating formation of nitric oxide in the vascular endothelium, it reduces the blood pressure. So this is how hydralazine is got a predictable reduction in the blood pressure. It belongs to the peripheral vasodilators, which acts on smooth muscles, primarily in the arterial wall, and reduces the blood pressure and peripheral resistance. Like in cardiac patients, those who have some cardiac problems, renal problems, cerebral problems, pulmonary and intestinal wall, it leads to increased blood flow. The decrease in blood pressure is by vasodilatation. It causes baroreceptors to increase the sympathetic tonability with increased heart contractibility. The pulmonary volume also increases considerably. So it's absorbed up to 50 to 90% and 10 to 15% is metabolized into hydralazine. 1 to 1.5 hours after administration of 25 milligram, the plasma concentration was 472 millimoles and elimination is up to 8 hours. So we can space our doses every 8 hours. And it is not dialyzed, so renal clearance is unavailable for unchanged hydralazine. There is no significant difference between dihydrolazine and hydralazine in its mechanism of action. So this WHO has listed only intravenous hydralazine in its latest essential drugs list for treating hypertension in pregnancy, severe hypertension in pregnancy. And according to this working group of control of hypertension in pregnancy, first line oral and intravenous treatment is methyl dopa and hydralazine respectively. Since methyl dopa is no longer available, we are often using labetalol. Not available, at least in Metro, Mumbai and all, it is not available. I don't know about your places. Not available. Because of its long history of efficacy and acceptable side effect profile, intravenous hydralazine is recommended for treatment of severe hypertension in women who are near term. And then there are some concerns about use of beta blockers, that especially in those patients who are having intrauterine growth restriction, whether these beta blockers will increase the growth restriction. In those cases, hydralazine can be used. So Japan has got lot of experience from using hydralazine. So Japanese guidelines refer to methyl dopa, hydralazine, labetalol as oral hypertensives that can be used in pregnancy, and they do not give nifedipine. In India, nifedipine is used very widely along with labetalol as the first line, and hydralazine is used only in cases of severe hypertension, or when we had to add on a third drug, then we consider hydralazine. Now there are a lot of adverse effects, like if you see labetalol, there will be bradycardia, bronchospasm, headache. Those patients who are having asthma, we cannot give, whereas hydralazine causes flushing, headache and lupus-like syndrome. This is one of the very important side effect of hydralazine. And so this is a comparison of the various drugs: methyl dopa, labetalol, peroral, labetalol IV, nifedipine, hydralazine, nicardia, nitroprusside, all these, and the adverse effects they have on pregnancy, and they are in which cases they are contraindicated. So we can give oral hydralazine in 50 to 300 milligrams in 2 to 4 divided doses throughout the day, either 8 hourly or 12 hourly divided doses. Be careful about hypotension, neonatal thrombocytopenia and lupus-like syndrome and tachycardia, and flushing and headache can be very significant in some of the patients. So its main effect is essentially to treat hypertension, especially with CKD patients and persistent hypertension in pregnant women. It can be used. There are some people who are allergic to dihydrazine, hydrazine, and we have to remember the lupus erythematosus, like and aortic aneurysms, cardiovascular stenosis, hypertrophic cardiomyopathies, and pulmonary hypertension because of isolated right-sided insufficiency. They are contraindicated to use hydralazine. So we can either give it as a IV push, or you can also give it as an infusion in these patients. But be very careful because the blood pressure can drop. So we have to have continuous CTG throughout the administration of hydralazine if the patient has not delivered until BP is stable, that is 30 minutes after the last dose. Record BP and pulse every 5 minutes after the bolus dose, and continue 5-minute BP and pulse until BP is stable, and then measure hourly. Record BP every 15 minutes for the first hour of a continuous infusion, and then hourly if stable. Nausea, vomiting, headache and tachycardia are known with hydralazine. The most important thing is it's a pregnancy category C drug, so it can be given in those patients who have not delivered as well. So So these are the categories. Labetalol is category C, methyl dopa, which we used, is category B, nifedipine is category C, and hydralazine is also category C drug. So how do we give this? If BP is not controlled with it, then how do we change the dose? Start with the minimum dose and at the low dose medication, and then slowly go on adding another low dose medication rather than going to a higher dose of the same medication, and wait for maximum of 3 medications before you want to add another drug to it. There are most important incapabilities that we cannot give dextrose, or 5% dextrose infusions are not compatible with hydralazine. It has to be given in Ringer lactate and cannot be given with 5% dextrose. We have to be very, very careful because it will be rapidly broken down and there can be side effects. Thank you for a very patient hearing, and I